benefits the favored few. They're sick and tired of the pay-to-play politics, and I promise you, when Donald Trump becomes President of the United States of America, pay-to-play politics is over and done. His only special interest will be you, the American people, each and every day. You know, the truth is the time has come for Hillary Clinton to come clean. They ought to shut down the Clinton Foundation right now, and the Justice Department should appoint an independent special prosecutor to get to the bottom of that cozy relationship between foreign donors to her foundation and her service at state. You know, it really is incredible. Despite that cascade of controversies, the American people here in North Carolina, you know, we're fighting each and every day in this economy. Fighting against policies that have rolled out of an administration that have stifled our economic growth from coast to coast. I mean, at the end of the day, despite all these breaking headlines, Donald Trump and I know, at the end of the day, this election is really about a stronger America at home and abroad. It's about getting this economy moving again for every American and having America standing tall in the world once again. And that's what we're going to fight for every day between now and Election Day. It's about jobs. And here in North Carolina, I know you all have been prospering in spite of the policies that have been coming out of the Obama administration. I had a reporter ask me the other day, or the other hour in Charlotte, they said, well, North Carolina's been doing a little bit good. And I said, well, I don't think it was because of Barack Obama's tax increases or red tape or war on coal or Obamacare. I think it's because North Carolina's got a great governor in Pat McCrory who knows how to swim upstream, and you're going to send him back to the State House this fall. But I'll tell you, Pat McCrory and I both know where the real strength of this country is, and it's not in the people that pass the laws. It's not in the people that faithfully execute the laws. It's really found in people like my friend Pete here. It really is amazing. I thanked him for his hospitality, but what's most meaningful to me is his inspiring example. Pete started this company 10 years ago with a staff of 2. He had 3 kids at home. I just met one of them. His oldest son actually works here, thinking about going into the service. But he said, when I started out, my oldest was 9 years old. I told my wife that I was going to step out of a good career. I was going to start a company. Had to mortgage their house a little bit. There were some tough years. But here they stand with manufacturing methods on the cusp of tremendous growth, creating jobs and opportunities right here in North Carolina. The reason I love that is I know what it takes. I know what it takes. Back in the early 1990s, I had a good paying job, and I told my wife I had an idea to start a business. So I hung the fluorescent lights in the basement. I don't know if you did that too, Pete. I had 3 little ones running around upstairs. They've all 2 are out of college now, and 1's still in school. But I remember hearing the kids run around upstairs when I started to put that business together. I know the faith and the courage and the determination that it takes to build a business from the ground up. And Donald Trump is such a man, and as president, he's going to fight for more great American success stories like Pete's, like yours, and like people all across North Carolina. Because these are tough times. North Carolina's holding its own. Indiana's been holding its own in spite of the policies coming out of this administration. But across this country, these are challenging times. We're in the midst of the weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression. The morning after Hillary Clinton gave that really long speech at her convention, and I'm not saying it was longer than other people's speeches. I'm just saying it seemed longer. Because it was the same old, wasn't it? I mean, you heard more of the same, more taxes, more regulation, more spending, more Obamacare, more of the war on coal, and a weaker America in the world. In the midst of all of that, the next morning we got up, the newspapers told us that official Washington said that the economy had only grown by 1.4% in the last quarter. The weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression, the lowest labor participation rate in this country since the 1970s when I was getting out of high school. And most heartbreakingly of all, nearly 7 million more Americans are living in poverty today in this country than the day that Barack Obama became president of the United States. Hillary Clinton's answer? Hillary Clinton's answer is very simple. More than $1 trillion in higher taxes. More than $1 trillion in new spending in just one speech a couple of days back. More regulation, more Obamacare, more of the war on coal. And when she was asked recently how she was going to pay for all these new big government programs, she said, quote, "I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going where the money is. We're going after the super wealthy. We're going after corporations. We're going after Wall Street." Well, she certainly knows how to do that. Certainly knows how to go after dollars from corporations and Wall Street. But, you know, when I was in the Congress for those 12 years, I actually led the fight against the Wall Street bailout. Hillary Clinton fought for it and helped to pass it into law. And the truth of the matter is, Margaret Thatcher probably said it best. The problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money. Donald Trump and I know the pathway to growth is not more taxes, more regulation, more Obamacare. It's freeing up the pent-up power of the American economy by lowering taxes, rolling back red tape, and repealing Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. Donald Trump laid out a plan. He laid out a plan to lower taxes on every American, to lower corporate taxes in this country, some of the highest business taxes in the world. We're going to lower them down to 15% so businesses here in North Carolina can compete and keep jobs in North Carolina and compete with companies around the world. Donald Trump said we're going to freeze new regulation that so stifles business growth and development, particularly for entrepreneurs. And he said on day one we're going to sign that moratorium, and secondly he's going to repeal all those executive orders imposing regulations that are stifling growth all across this country. He's going to bring real trade reform. You know, I was at that North Carolina ports, and Donald Trump and I both believe in free trade, but the time has come for us to let one of the greatest negotiators in the world renegotiate trade agreements so they work for working people in North Carolina, in Indiana, and all across this country. And lastly, on energy reform, Donald Trump and I believe in an all of the above energy strategy. This nation is blessed with vast natural resources, and Donald Trump and I will end the war on coal and free up the power of American energy from all of our sources so America can grow. Now, a lot of economists are looking at that Trump economic plan he rolled out a week or so ago, and a lot of people are praising it. They're saying they're looking back in the 1980s when another president did a lot of the same things, and the American economy took off like a jackrabbit after years of what President Jimmy Carter called malaise, and we called the new normal. Remember that? I mean, I remember Ronald Reagan stepping up to that first inaugural address on that cold day in January 1981, and he said, "Why shouldn't we dream great dreams? After all, we're Americans." And when Reagan got big government out of the way and lowered taxes, America took off. Donald Trump knows it will again. Now, Hillary Clinton thinks, she actually used the phrase that expectation is, quote, wildly unrealistic. Well, you know, I think the only thing that's wildly unrealistic is electing the same people with the same bad ideas and expecting a different result. You know, Donald Trump and I know. You let the American people keep more of what they earn, you get big government out of the way, you take 3 steps back, and America happens. And we're going to see jobs and opportunities like we've never seen before in the great state of North Carolina and all across the board. You know, when you think about the record of this administration at home, as difficult as it has been for working Americans, it gets even more difficult when you look outside our shores. I mean, for 7.5 years, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have been at the helm of a foreign policy that has weakened America's place in the world, and it seemed to set the wider Middle East spinning apart. You know, history teaches us that weakness arouses evil. And I would submit to you that the weak foreign policy of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, of leading from behind, moving red lines, feigning resets with Russia, paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states, has weakened America's place in the world and emboldened the enemies of our freedom. Well, let me make you a promise. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorists or terror-sponsoring states. They'll be paying a price if they threaten the American people. And I mean, Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs has to be talked about in this campaign. It was Hillary Clinton who actually instigated that disastrous agreement with the radical mullahs in Iran. It was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama who saw to it that the hard-fought gains of the American soldier in Operation Iraqi Freedom were essentially squandered when they pulled our troops out precipitously before the re-election arrived. They created the very vacuum in which ISIS was able to spawn, as it were, out of the sand and compromise large areas of that hard-fought territory in Iraq. You know, the debt that we owe to men and women who served in uniform, we can never fully repay. But would all of the women and men who have worn the uniform of the United States who are here with us today, would you slip your hand in the air and just give us one more opportunity to thank you for your service to this great nation? You know, we can't have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. And I promise you, Donald Trump will lead on the world stage from American strength. He will rebuild the arsenal of democracy. He will rebuild and stand with our soldiers, and he will hunt down and destroy all those who threaten our freedom at their very source. I promise you that. You know, the choice in this election couldn't be more clear. It's really a choice between real change and the status quo. It's a choice between a failed establishment in Washington, D.C. that seems to be every day trying to walk farther and farther away from the ideals upon which this nation was founded, and a candidate in Donald Trump who believes in the greatness of the American people and the greatness and boundless potential of our ideals when they're put into practice. Which brings me to my last point. You know, we're going to choose a president in this election who will serve for the next 4 years. But that president will actually set the course of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. In North Carolina, we need to think about that. We need to think about that very carefully. If you cherish our Constitution, if you cherish limited government, if you cherish the freedoms that are enshrined in our Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, then you better think about that real hard. You better talk to your neighbors and friends and tell them, if you cherish those God-given liberties enshrined in those founding documents and long to see a Supreme Court who will stand by our constitutional rights, we need to make sure in North Carolina that the next president appointing justices to the Supreme Court of the United States of America is President Donald Trump. You know, I'm just so grateful that you're out here in the sun. I really am. I'm very humbled by it. You know I'm a B-list Republican celebrity. Right? I mean, I get that. You all are great to come out. Thank you. No. But I know you're here. I know you're here. I know you're here because this isn't about one man. This isn't about a team or a ticket. It isn't even about one political party. I mean, everywhere I've gone in this country campaigning with Donald Trump and for Donald Trump, it's clear to me this is a movement. This is a movement of the American people who hear the other side say this is the best we can do, and the American people are saying, no, it's not the best we can do, it's just the best they can do. And if we have new leadership that truly believes in the American people, we can make America great again. That movement is what you're a part of. And I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be here. But as we go out, I really want to give you a word of a challenge today. And that is very simply, you've come out today, hopefully, to be reminded of what you already knew about the stakes in this election, about the need for us to have a stronger America at home and abroad, to have leadership at the national level that unleashes the full strength of the American economy, that stands by our soldiers and puts our security first, that upholds the Constitution. And I bet you're also here because you want the highest standards of integrity to be in the highest office in the land. But I hope when you leave here today, I truly hope you go tell somebody. Tell somebody at work or at worship or outside a grocery store or over a backyard fence. Send somebody an email. Drop them a note, because I promise you, all the TV shows in the world, all the front pages in North Carolina in the world, all the internet articles and all the tweets in the world combined cannot be compared to the credibility that you have when you sit down with someone who knows you and trusts you and tell them why Donald Trump must be the next president of the United States of America. That's what you got to do. Vince, you got to go do it. So leave here today with a burden on your heart to go tell the story and tell why it matters to you. Tell it to your neighbors and friends, because I said it when I stepped up here. The road to the White House goes straight through North Carolina. It truly does. This state always plays an important role in our national destiny, but I think it's especially true today. And so I want to encourage you to take it upon yourselves. Take it upon yourselves to go out and tell the story. And when you do it, I hope you'll also tell one other thing that Donald Trump and I truly believe. You know, we live in very divided times. Seems like some new poll comes out about every 15 minutes, doesn't it? I mean, really. Pops up on your iPhone, new poll here, new poll there. It's always the American people are divided this way and that way. You turn on the TV, there's already somebody for this, somebody for that, right? But you know, honestly, I was raised to think of this country differently than that. I mean, my grandfather immigrated to this country from Ireland when he was about my son's age now. Got off a boat on Ellis Island. He took a train over to Chicago and drove a bus for 40 years. He's the proudest man I ever knew. Richard Michael was who Michael Richard was named after. He saw his daughter, my mom, who's 83 years young, marry a fast-talking salesman who hauled her down to southern Indiana to a little small town to run a gas station business. And I really grew up steeped in the American dream. I watched my parents build everything that matters, you know, a family, a business, and a good name. To be good neighbors, to be in their communities. And they always raised me to believe that as Americans, there has always and will always be so much more that unites us than will ever divide us. This is a united States of America. And we are united on our ideals. To be an American is to believe in freedom, is to believe in personal responsibility, is to believe in the boundless potential of every person to pursue their dreams through hard work and determination and live out those dreams if they're willing to work hard and play by the rules. You know, as governor of Indiana, I go visit fourth grade classes because that's when they learn about Indiana government, Tom. And I usually wave the fourth graders in and I say, let me tell you the secret about America. and I whisper it. And I make them lean in real close. I say, here in America, different than almost every other place in the world throughout all of the history of this planet, here in America, anybody can be anybody. That's the American dream. And that's what's always united us in this country. And that's what Donald Trump and I believe in to our bone marrow. I mean, his family, his grandfather immigrated this country just like mine. His father was a self-made man just like mine. We were both raised to believe to whom much is given, much will be required. I mean, other than a whole bunch of zeros, he and I have a great deal in common. Thank you for that. I mean, the truth of the matter is I was called into public service. He was called to build on the foundation he'd been given. He's a builder. But he did it because we both believed in this country. And that's what I want you to tell people when you go out. Sure, talk about the choice. Talk about the choice of the failed economic policies, a weaker America in the world, the Supreme Court, and all this business of our high standards in public life. But I hope you'll also talk about the fact that I believe Donald Trump, when he becomes president of the United States, is going to be the greatest cheerleader for the American dream who has ever sat in the Oval Office of the United States. So my friends in North Carolina, I think we've come to another time for choosing, but I have faith. I have faith in the boundless capacity of the American people to right the ship of state and to have an America be stronger, quicker than you might even think. And I have faith that now, as always, that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and He will yet bless our land. So let me lay the choice out for you, and then I'm going to say hello before I have to slip back to the Hoosier State. Number one, if you want a president who will protect this nation, rebuild our military, stand by our soldiers, confront radical Islamic terrorism, and destroy ISIS at the source. If you want a president who will stand with all of these courageous men and women who wear the uniform of law enforcement all across North Carolina and all across America, and give them the resources and support they need to protect our families and go home safe to theirs. If you want a president who will cut taxes, grow our economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. And if you want a president who will restore the borders of this nation, he will build a wall, enforce our laws for the citizens of this country and the strength of our economy. And if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, then let me tell you, North Carolina, what you got to tell your neighbors and friends. If you want all that, you got one choice. And I promise you, that man is ready. This team is ready. This movement is ready. Let's go make sure that North Carolina is ready, and we will make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States of America, and he will make America great again.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise must plan.